Three, two, one. Let's get it. 3, 2, 1. We're back. Live in the flesh. Live in the flesh, everyone. Takeaways with Tay. Happy Sunday to everyone out there. Hope this Sunday, this October 13th, is greeting you well and that you have you're enjoying your time. Shout out to everyone that has tapped in with me this week, and we've been able to build connections, relationships, things like that. It's always great to be able to build those things in the community and talk to people. I love talking to people. Yeah. So without further ado, this episode is a very special episode. For those of you who are not aware, this is what we call Takeaways with Tay. This is what I call Takeaways with Tay. And it's a time for me to not only share the knowledge that I have gained from reading books, but to get insights and to get you all's inputs and I guess you could say opinions on different topics. My vision for this is for it to expand and be very interactive and to turn into this community where we are diving into different topics, different books, and as a collective, and we're able to enlighten one another, share different topics, share different perspectives and takes on things that are all relatable to our lives, such as love, relationships, jobs, all those great things. So it's actually crazy because I was looking at how far I've come, and I'm like, my goal was to do this every week for a year, and I'm on week 28, which is like, I didn't even realize it, but I'm already halfway through it, which means there's only like 24, 25 more weeks left until I reach a whole year. So that's crazy. And like I said, I didn't even realize it. And so I definitely have to do a better job of keeping track of when I reach certain milestones, because that's a huge one. It definitely is a testament to consistency, and it's something that I've been working on. So shout out to me, shout out to myself. Now, this episode is special in particular because the book that I dove into is called The 48 Laws of Power, and it's by Robert Greene, who is an author. And it's kind of ironic because although this book is talking about power, he doesn't necessarily follow his own advice, because he says that a person who does would be a horrible person to be around, which I think is interesting, because it's like you made these laws of power, but then you don't even stick with them because you feel like they're manipulative in nature and that they're indicative of a character of a person that you wouldn't want to even be around. So this is going to be interesting because there's a lot of controversy surrounding the 48 Laws of Power. So for those of you who don't know what the 48 Laws of Power is, it's a book which is basically 48 laws of power. And it's this author's attempt to kind of put into like this psychology, if you will, of power and how the power dynamics work in our society. So he in particular, he made these observations while he was working in the film industry. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, like in context, because there's a reason why he created the book. The book is controversial because it's very, as I was reading it, I was seeing like, okay, why people would have a problem with it, because it's very, the laws are like manipulative in nature. They're manipulative. They are selfish. They are very unethical, if that makes sense. And so, Robert Greene, he says he's not evil. He's a realist. So I appreciate that. But I think with all things, it's important to put into context why something was created. And so, to begin, we're talking about power here. Now, regardless if you admit it or not, everyone wants power. Like, let's be for real. You want power in your job. You want power if you play a sport. You want power in that sport. You want power over the other team. If you are a teacher or a coach, you want power over your classroom. If you are in a relationship, you want power in that relationship. You want, to some extent, everybody wants power. If you say you don't want power, I don't trust you. I've never met anybody who doesn't want power in some space, field, whatever. Like, people want to be acknowledged. It's human nature. People want to be the head and not the tail. It's okay. But if you say you don't, to each his own. But I'm gonna look at you a different way, because I'm like, you want power, you're just not saying it. You're not being honest. So everybody wants power, in my opinion. And how they get that power, it's different. But in this case, in Robert Greene's case, he says that there's particular laws, there's rules that you can go by to get that power. And essentially, it's almost like you're manipulating situations to get that power. But essentially, it's all about finding a balance, right? So you don't necessarily have to follow all the laws that he gives for power and how to obtain it. But he says that you can at least take some, leave some, and learn how to find a balance between being democratic, diplomatic, or being the person that's just like completely doing your own thing, essentially. So, or being the person that's over being crushed by someone. So either you're extremely diplomatic and you're extremely power seeking, or you're the one that's getting walked over. You're the one that's being taken advantage of. And there's this balance that you need to have in life, because you don't want to be the person that's like controlling everything. You don't want to be the dictator, but you also don't want to be the one that's getting walked all over. And that's with anything. So these rules essentially help you find a balance. And his whole philosophy is that the world is like a game, right? So like life, society, whatever you're trying to obtain, it's a game. And you have to know how to play it. Now, in the past, I've always been this person that's like, forget the game, F the players, F the coach. Like, I don't care. I don't care about none of it, because it's like, why? What's the purpose, right? But as I've gotten older, I see why the game exists. And it's not because there's something necessarily wrong with me or with other people or with you, right? But it's because people are in positions of power. They're very insecure. They're very, the way that they see the world is not ethical. It's not right. And that's why there's a game. That's why the game exists, because you have to, when they're in positions of power, they can dictate certain things. They can gatekeep certain things. And if you want to get something, you essentially have to kiss their butt. And you have to like bend over. Well, you don't have to bend over, but I would say verbally, you have to do things and navigate situations so that you don't, and tiptoe around situations so that you don't push any buttons, essentially. So I understand it. Now, I also believe that like, that's if you want that. Like, if you want a situation where you feel like you have to get past certain people and get through certain doors and you have to kiss people's butts, then that's totally up to you. And then things like this would apply, but other people just don't care. Like, you don't care about necessarily getting in the door. You're going to build your own door. You're going to build your own whatever, and none of this would apply to you. But specifically, let's start with takeaway number 1. So my takeaway after reading all this is that applicability varies. And what I mean by that is that, like I said, if you're someone who is in a particular industry that doesn't necessarily abide by these rules and these laws, then you don't need to adhere to them. But for me, or for people who are artists, entertainers, things like that, like, it's important for me to understand the music industry, and it's important for me to understand the entertainment industry, because that's what I'm in. And if you go back through the history of time, the entertainment industry, music industry, it's like a mafia. It's like there's no ethics, there's no like, it's like an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. People are dying, people are getting drugged up, it's like it's dog eat dog, streets, drugs, like it's the worst of the worst. And so something like the 48 laws of power would apply to someone like me, because this is the industry and the people that I would be dealing with. This is the psychology of the people that I would be dealing with. Now, if you are someone who is in an industry that you would say maybe like it's a little bit more ethical and there's different laws and things like that, like that you would abide by, then I don't think this is necessarily apply to you. But anyways, there's different power structures across different industries. So knowing your industry, knowing your power structure in your industry, and knowing how to navigate that is what matters. Like teachers in particular, I would say, let's use them as an example. Teachers in particular, they have to answer to someone, right? They have to answer to an administrator. Administrator has to answer to a board of educators, which answers to superintendents, et cetera, et cetera. So essentially there's like a power game there too. I would say like also, healthcare, whoever's ahead of you, corporate in general. I feel like there's a certain level of power and a power structure that's in place, and you have to know how to navigate that so that you don't step on anybody's toes. Sometimes you can be overqualified for something or underqualified, but I'll say overqualified, but you have to act like you're underqualified so that you don't piss anybody off. Like it's unfortunate, but it's just real. It's what happens. And that's essentially like some of the laws that are in this book. That's essentially what they're saying is like, don't outshine the master. That's law number 1. Because you don't want your master to think that to be threatened by you, or to have any reason to kind of demote you, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, and I think it's important too to understand like why laws are created. So like, in my opinion, laws are created to maintain a certain structure of a way that a society functions. And so even though these laws are controversial and people feel however they feel about them, they're there for a reason. And I feel like the laws they're the effects. They're not the cause. In my opinion, the cause is society. So these laws are these laws because we live in a society of people that are insecure, that feel easily threatened, that are unable to get what they want. They have to manipulate things because we live in a society where a lot of people face these problems. They don't have that inner power. They don't have that inner pull. They don't have that inner magnifying like presence to themselves that allows them to attract what they want, what they need. They feel the need to manipulate situations because they just don't got the juice. Essentially, you're not him, you're not her. You're not him, you're not her. So now you have to create laws and powers and things like that so that you can become him and become her. But I just feel like if it's in you, it's in you. If you got it, you got it. Like if you don't, you just don't, and you just got to live with that. Like, but some people, they can't live with that, so then they create these laws, and now we got the 48 laws of power. So, takeaway number 2 is that some laws are in particular, I would apply to my life. So like law number 40 was that the only free cheese is in a mousetrap. And, I don't see anything controversial about that. I think that that's true. You don't get anything for free in life. Like if somebody gives you something for free, if somebody gives me something for free, I'm looking at them like, what do you want? What is it? What do you want? What do you want? Time? You want money? What do you want? Because it's like, I'm intelligent enough to know that things aren't free. And I also don't give things for free unless it's somebody that I like love, or my family, my little siblings. Like I'm not about to give my time, my energy, my resources for free. That's just not, we're not in a charity. This isn't a charity. So that's how I feel. I feel like, yeah, nothing is free. And that's a law that I would say that I don't think there's any controversy there. Like you don't get things for free in life. That's just, it is what it is. Law number 23 says, focus your energy where it matters. And once again, I don't find anything controversial about this one, because it's like, yeah, if you are trying to accomplish something in life, you want to make sure that whatever you're trying to accomplish, you're putting all your focus towards that. And you're not allowing other things outside of that to distract you or throw you off course. And then also sometimes too, Like, there might be a lot of things going on, and you have to learn how to juggle those things and focus on one thing at a time so that you can accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Law number 16 says to know when to go. Know when to go. That's another one that I don't think there's any issues with that, because it's like, yeah, you got to know when to leave the party. You got to know when to leave the relationship. You got to know when to leave the job. You got to know when to leave the facility. You know, like, I remember this one time I got invited to this birthday party, and it was a birthday party of a friend. Well, we're not friends anymore, but it was a birthday party of a ex-friend. It was her boyfriend at the time, or fiance, and we were like preparing for the party or whatever, and it was like a surprise party kind of, but he knew it was gonna be a party. But anyways, when he got there, you know, like, I said happy birthday to him, and everybody said happy birthday to him, and then him and I had like kind of like a conversation, just, you know, just casual conversation. But in that conversation, he disrespected me. And I don't tolerate disrespect. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you have. I don't care if it's your birthday, if it's a holiday, if it's Christmas. I don't care. If you disrespect me, I will politely do what I need to do to make sure that you never disrespect me again. And so in that particular situation, he disrespected me. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to stay here in this party because I don't have to. 1, 2, because you just disrespected me. And 3, we have no longer anything to talk about, to whatever. So long story short, I left the party. And, you know, my friend at the time was like, why are you leaving? It's not that serious, blah, blah, blah. And then that's when I was like, okay, me and you don't need to be friends, because if it's not that serious to you, then clearly, like. But anyways, that situation is a prime example of like knowing when to leave, like knowing when your presence is no longer appreciated. Because that's the thing too, is like sometimes people take your presence for granted. And so when you leave a situation, then they can feel that that energy is no longer there. They no longer have access to that. And so it applies, I would say, not just to situations like what I just mentioned, but a situation where, you know, someone is taking your presence for granted. They're taking you for granted, and they're taking access to you for granted. And so it's like sometimes you have to remind people who they're dealing with, because they take it for granted, and then that's when you can go ahead and leave the situation and let your absence be felt. And then sometimes, you know, it's up to your discretion if you want to re-enter, if you want to, you know, give a second chance, etc. But sometimes, you know, you can just leave and that's that. You know, you leave, you go find something else, you go mingle with someone else, you go do whatever you need to do. But knowing when to leave is important, because you can't let people talk to you a certain type of way, and you can't let people treat you a certain type of way, and you can't let people get over on you, especially like if you're working somewhere at a job and they're not valuing your contribution, or you feel like you've been asking for a raise and they just won't give it to you. Like sometimes you gotta let people know, like, all right, shoot, I don't need you, you need me. Like you really gotta have that type of mentality when it comes to a lot of things. And I mean, of course, like, you know, be humble, but at the same time, don't. Because, like, what? Yes, you need me. I don't need you. But I'm just talking in terms of, like, structures, power structures, and things like that. Of course, we need each other. We need community. We need people. We need family. We need love. So, takeaway number 3. Also, too, wait, before I go to takeaway number 3, I wanted to share some of the laws that were more controversial. So like law number 8 says to make people approach you first. Like true power is not chasing and reacting to everything, but it's about giving people the choice to, like, you got to lure them in and gain control over the situation, which I don't know how I feel about that one. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? Because for me, it's like if somebody wants to approach you, they want to approach you. If they don't, they just don't. Like, trying to make someone approach you first is like you got to go out of your way to and spend all this energy to try to get someone to approach you because you want them to. I don't know. I don't. To me, it doesn't. It just. I don't understand that. It says law number 11: make people need you. Now, this could be good and bad. I don't know. Once again, it's like one of them situations where it's like, why do you, like, in business, I could see that. In business, I could see why you want to make somebody need you, why you want to make a customer feel like they need your product, or make them feel like your brand is top, whatever. Like, it works because it sells, it makes money. But making people like just an everyday person, I don't know. I'm still digesting all these laws and taking it in myself. Law number 14 says be a spy and act like a friend, which is that's some messed up shit. Like, imagine being in a friend group and somebody's in a friend group just so that they can get insight into your life and into what's going on in your world. They're not really a friend. They don't really have your best interest at heart. They're just there because they want to. Maybe they envy you, or maybe they want something that you have, and they kind of want to get close to you just to figure out how you did that. And it's crazy because, like, people are reading this book and they actually believe these laws. Some people are using these laws as a guide. And like, that's the part where I was like, okay, let me read this, because for me, it's like, it's more of like a warning. Like, these are the laws in the psychology that people are using or could be using against me. You know what I mean? Like, or this is the thought process that they could have. So for me, it was like, let me see how other people are looking at this, and like how they might be interpreting these things, because this is weird. Let's see. Law number 17 is never act predictably, which I could agree with that. You know, you don't want to. I could agree with that to a certain extent. When it comes to people who you don't really necessarily want in your business, and you kind of want to just like maintain a sense of privacy, yes. Like, I would say never act predictably, because you don't want people in your life. But when it comes to a relationship, like when you're trying to be intimate with someone, you definitely want to be predictable, because that's how you build a secure relationship. Like, you want somebody to be able to know, like, oh, they're here at this time. I mean, things differ, you know, people have different schedules and things like that, and things might change or fluctuate, but for the most part, you want to be able to know your partner so well enough that you can kind of predict what they're doing, or where they might be. Oh, they're out playing basketball right now, or oh, they're going to play soccer, or oh, they're like doing something. I know if they're not answering my call, I know why. Like, you don't have to kind of guess. It says some other laws: never reveal your intentions. Now, this one is law number 3, and the author is basically saying that most believe that honesty is the best strategy, but in fact, sincerity might offend people and make you predictable. Now, this is the part where it's like very controversial, because it's like, if you don't reveal your intentions, how can you intentionally build authentic relationships? Or how can you intentionally build something? I don't know. It's kind of, this one's rubbing me a certain way. In conversation, less is more. That's law number 4. In conversation, less is more. I agree with that. You know, your words are powerful, and when you say things, you can't take them back. So you want to make sure that what you're saying is very concise, very precise, very intentional. But yeah, so I'm not going to read all the laws. If you guys throw out a number that I didn't say, you guys can throw out a number between 1 and 48, and I can tell you what that law is. So if you got a number, I've already shared like law number 1, law number I think 20, 23, 16, and 40. So if you got a number and you're curious about what law it might be, now's the chance. Throw it out there. Yeah, some of these laws they're definitely very controversial. And I would say like if you're interested in kind of seeing how other people might think about something, then definitely read it, because you might be tapping into what someone else might be using against you. Law number 48 is, let me see. Law number 48 is to stay flexible. Stay flexible. It says the best way to protect yourself from enemies is to avoid taking a distinct shape. Adapt to circumstance, and your enemy won't be able to know your next move or attack you. I think that's pretty straightforward. I think that's especially important for like if you're in the army or if you've served, because you don't want to be predictable. You don't want to be a predictable target. People are going to know how to attack you or where your weaknesses are if you don't stay flexible. If you have another number that you would like, now is the chance. I'm going to go to my favorite number, which is 11 and 7. But I think I already read 11. So 11 is make people need you. Okay, that's the one we talked about. And then law number 7 is make others do the legwork for you. These laws are okay. I can see 7 though. I can understand why, because when you have the money and you're in a position to be able to employ someone else, then yes, you want to delegate as many tasks as possible so that you can focus on the more important task. Okay, so takeaway number 3 here is that you can take these laws or you can lead them, but know that someone else is probably going to take them. So like I said, like you can use the laws as a guide or you can use it as a warning. In my case, I'm taking some, but I'm leaving others. But the ones that I'm leaving, I'm paying attention to them because I know that somebody else is probably using those laws. And I know that the spaces and the rooms that I'm looking to navigate, somebody might be thinking along those laws. So me being aware of that is just something that helps me know how to navigate a room, how to communicate with people who might be thinking a certain type of way, essentially so that I can best position myself to be where I want to be. But some things to consider though, like if you do want to take the laws for word, take them as a law and kind of like adapt them into your life, is that you have to have discernment when using the laws. So I think it's important to know the type of people and the types of structures that you are entering into where these laws might be applicable. So like I said, for example, the music industry and the entertainment industry is the best industry that I can think about in terms of where these laws might be applicable, because it's just such a ruthless industry. It's such an industry that is perpetrated by drugs, sex, violence, and turmoil. Never read that book, but a lot of people live their life based off what's it. Yeah, see, like that's what I'm saying. Like literally, people take this book and they're like, this is the Bible. Like this. They take it and they put it into this like holy grail. Like this is what God said, and that's why I'm like, for me, even though I might necessarily agree with the laws and agree with the book, I have to read the book because I have to know what other people are thinking and where their minds are when it comes to power and manipulating situations. And just like when you go out and you're in the world and you kind of observe people, you can see who has an inner strength and who might not feel the need to manipulate situations in their power. You can tell when someone is trying to manipulate a situation. You can tell when someone is insecure. You can tell when someone isn't all what they say they are. You know, people put on these perceptions and all these things. And so you can kind of discern like who would be likely to have this psychology, this type of mentality, and who wouldn't. In my opinion, I just feel like the laws could stifle deep connection, because you can't really connect with somebody if you're always anticipating what they're going to do, or what they're not doing, or how they're better than you, or how you can be better than them. Like, it's like you're going to spend so much energy trying to control the situation that you're never going to be able to have an authentic, deep connection. Now, that's only, like I said, that's only if you apply it to certain areas in life. Like, if you're applying this to every area of life when it comes to relationships and everything, then yeah, you're going to have in my opinion, you're going to have a hard time creating anything authentic. And then also, I feel like these laws could cause paranoia, and they could cause mental health, because it's like you're constantly looking over your back, trying to make sure that someone's not getting over on you, or trying to manipulate a situation. And then you by the end of the day, you're like, you spend all your energy trying to control something that essentially you just can't control. So yeah, I find the book very interesting. I don't think that manipulating situations is better in the long run at all. I was watching this documentary, the Death Row documentary, and essentially it basically tells a whole story of the rise and the fall of Death Row. And it talks about, you know, Suge Knight, and Dr. Dre, and the lawyers that they were working with, and how they initially got funded. And essentially, Death Row was funded by this like head drug. I mean, he literally was moving dope in like 15 states in the United States of America. His name was like Michael. They called him Michael O or Michael O. Oh, Harry, don't quote me on that one. You gotta look that up. But like, and the crazy thing is, he was supposed to be still in prison, but Donald Trump pardoned this guy, which was even more interesting, because it's like Donald Trump pardoned him, and now he's like free. He's a free man. But I mean, he was doing some time. But anyways, he funded Death Row. And when he funded Death Row, there was an agreement about, you know, who was going to be doing what, who was releasing music. Dr. Dre released The Chronic. Immediately after the funding happened, Dr. Dre released The Chronic album. And the Chronic album went on to be like one of the best albums of all time when it comes to hip hop. And then after that, you had Doggy Style, Snoop Dogg, that released through Death Row. But essentially, you know, they were on this uphill, like Death Row, Suge, all of them. They were on this uphill. There was a lot of egos involved. There was a lot of separation, fights. The way that Suge was going about different things in the industry, like if he didn't get his way, he was fighting people. He was threatening people. He became like very like this intimidating factor. And according to the 48 laws of power, that's what you want. Like, you want to be intimidated. You want to have this image of like, don't try me. But fast forward, I mean, that was back in what, 1990, early 1990s. Fast forward to 2024, and literally Death Row is owned by Snoop Dogg, but Death Row, as the world knew it, Suge Knight is in jail. He's in prison. Tupac is dead. Dr. Dre has started his own label in connection. He partnered with Jimmy Iovine, and there's an attorney that was there. He's on facing charges right now. So the attorney for Death Row, he's being charged right now for something completely separate. But like, when you fast forward, like, these people who were once at the top of their careers and who were seemed as like the most intimidating, they were at the top, whatever, like, now they're nowhere. Everybody's either dead, in prison, or they're not connected to Death Row at all. Shout out to Snoop Dogg because he was able to like get out of everything, and then now he owns Death Row. But like essentially, like you see how the 48 Laws of Power panned out for them. So I think like using examples in history to be able to see like, okay, do these laws actually work? You know, like in the long run. In my opinion, they don't. I think you can have some really great success. I think maybe like a 10-year stretch, maybe 5-10-year stretch, depending on the situation. But eventually things catch up to you. Things catch up to you. You get in a situation where you just that's what it is. And Suge Knight is currently in prison because he attempted to kill, well, he killed someone, and then he has attempted murder for the other person that he was trying to kill. So like, yeah, at the end of the day, man, you got to control yourself. You have to control your emotions. You have to come from a space of within that is that a lot of people don't seem to have. And in order to have that, I feel like it's a lot of tapping in with yourself, and people don't want to tap in with themselves. So I don't know. I'm just a girl. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are. These are my takeaways with Tay. Every Sunday we're tuning in. Like I said, this is week 28 for me. So, which is incredible, because that means I'm more than halfway through with my goal, which was a whole 52 weeks. So, without further ado, if you guys have any recommendations, book readings, things like that, please drop them in the comment section for me, because I'd love to check them out. Make sure they're nonfiction, and as long as they're related to topics like self-development, love, relationships, career, all that great stuff, I would love to take a look at it. Also, what I was gonna say, I'm drawing a blank. The music is coming, guys. I'm gonna be honest with you. I tend to kind of shoot myself in the foot sometimes because I tend to be a perfectionist about the releasing of it and things like that. So I am working on it. It's coming. It's here. Like, I promise. It's here. I might even release something tonight, depending on how I'm feeling. It's not even gonna be depending on how I'm gonna release something tonight. So I'm gonna put something on SoundCloud tonight. Lou says it's cap. It's not cap. I promise. I'm gonna put something on SoundCloud so y'all can hear it. Check it out. Let me know. Give me your thoughts. But the actual, like, the real project, Remember Me 2 is coming. It's in the works. So just continue to have some patience, please. Thank you. Appreciate it. Love you guys, and I'll catch you next week. See y'all later. Peace.